Hi, Aries. Let's talk about the astrology of December 2025 and January 2026 and what it signifies for you. There's a lot going on with this chart, but let's start by talking about the full moon in Gemini that occurs on December 4th. This full moon is falling in your third house. The third house relates to communication, your local area, like your neighborhood, your town, your city, and siblings and extended family members can show up here too. There's a youthfulness to this energy, and you might be bringing that to your communication around this time, Aries. There is something wonderfully youthful about Gemini moon energy. You might even feel like you look a little younger during this time, or you might just feel a curiosity or a wonder for life sort of coursing through you now. You might find yourself navigating your local area with a certain youthful, curious energy now. How can you bring a freshness to these life areas, or maybe some renewed curiosity? Leaning into youthfulness in some way could serve you well at this time. Gemini full moon is also just a great time for having fun and being social. And with it falling in your third house, you might feel that way a little extra. Gemini is all about keeping things fun, light, and enjoyable. Gemini full moons are an amazing time to gather with friends for some laughs, or it could be a great time to get together with just one other person for a good long talk. With this moon falling in your third, you probably have a lot of energy for socializing and for communication around this time. We generally don't love to be super serious in the Gemini part of our chart, but we do like to enjoy ourselves, connect with others, and have a little fun. So you probably naturally bring this youthful social energy to your interactions day to day. But all of that could be a little bit ignited around the time of this full moon. This full moon occurs on the 4th, but it's really active for the next 2 weeks until we have the next new moon. I will also include all the dates in the timestamps here. There's also a kind of quick intelligence to this transit. You might not have all the answers at this time, but you might kind of feel like you do anyway. Gemini is smart and quick intellectually. So you might kind of feel that way when it comes to learning new things or communicating your ideas with others. You're sort of a little extra mentally flexible right now and feeling ready to learn something new. Just do be careful not to move or speak too quickly. Sometimes Gemini full moon energy is so interested in going fast that it can make us sort of miss a thing or two. Cause us or make us isn't the right way of putting it. These planetary movements signify what's happening for us. There's a correlation, not a cause. Another thing to keep in mind around the time of this full moon, Aries, is that it could bring sort of some restless energy. Gemini energy is kind of restless. This full moon can correspond with sort of a jittery feeling, like there's too much to say, too much to do, too much to think about. With it falling in your third, you might feel like you have so many errands to run, sort of a never-ending to-do list. Variety is a good thing at this time. It satiates Gemini full moon energy, but also it might be interesting to notice the thoughts, ideas, conversations, errands that make you feel energized versus ones that just kind of keep you spinning. It's a good time to focus on sort of paring down and directing your focus a little. You can sort of direct your focus towards those most important goals or towards the things that help you feel grounded, and then sort of move your energy away from the noise at this time. That could be helpful. I want to shift the focus to the Scorpio and Sagittarius parts of your chart now. In November, we had Mercury retrograde through these two houses. And now, this month, basically for all of December, we have Mercury direct through Scorpio and then Sagittarius, retracing that ground where it was retrograde last month. So Mercury will be direct in Scorpio from November 29th through December 11th. And this is falling in your eighth house, which relates to themes around transformation, wisdom, and others' money. Money that you receive from places other than your own earnings, like a spouse's income, for example, can show up in the eighth. And then the ninth house is about your ideas, your beliefs, your philosophy, the way you see the world. And education themes can show up here too. This Mercury direct is sort of bridging two landscapes this month. Together, these two signs and houses are telling a story in your chart. Where have you been working something out? Where did you need to review, revise, reimagine your approach? What new clarity and perspective has come in now as a result of all that hard work, all that digging, all that optimism? Now it's time for something of a new narrative. After weeks of rethinking, revising, and rereading between the lines, Mercury direct marks the beginning of a new story now. The confusion has lifted, the destination and the plot are more clear. Now you might notice how what you've learned has helped you to feel more decisive, more clear, more certain. You've been refined in some way by the experience of Mercury retrograde through these parts of your chart, and you might be feeling ready now to begin a new story, a new chapter in your adventure because of all you've learned and done. And the healing work that you've done brings new possibilities now. Scorpio themes around this retrograde relate to closure and healing and new possibilities. New options are opened up as a result, thanks to Sagittarius's influence. See, both of these signs really love to learn and grow. So now you have these new potentials after this retrograde, after all you've been through and learned. New options and new possibilities are available now. How have you transformed as a result of this Mercury retrograde? How have your ideas and beliefs shifted? The confusion likely came in November, and now the clarity will sort of slowly emerge over the course of the month of December. I feel like this process can be a good reminder that any healing work that we do really pays off at the end of the day. It's almost always well worth our effort. Might be interesting to think about the process that you've been through related to these life areas over the course of the last few weeks. Now is a time when you might have a better understanding about why. There's something deep and philosophical about this Mercury retrograde and now direct, moving through these two houses. A process through Scorpio and Sagittarius. It's very deep. It might be helping you to understand someone else's motivation for doing something, or maybe even your own. The emotional undercurrents that drive us might be revealed around this time. You might have a better understanding as to why certain choices were made, or what was really behind someone else's words. There could be a sense of closure or empowerment here. Insights you're having aren't just coming in sharp and clear now, they're also a little bit transformative. I'd love to know how this is playing out for you, Aries. We have so much more left in the report, so much more to talk about, but I'm curious if you're watching this and you have some sense of how this Mercury retrograde process and now the direct process has sort of unfolded for you. I'd love to hear about it in the comments. I actually have one more thing I want to talk about on this chart before moving to the next. Beginning of December is interesting. We have a few things to cover. We're actually still talking about this Mercury retrograde here, but we're also folding in a couple other parts of the chart. You might notice this big, beautiful, grand water trine here. Mercury direct in Scorpio is connecting to Jupiter in Cancer and Saturn in Pisces. We've been working with different iterations of this grand water trine since late October. And as Mercury moves direct through Scorpio, it moves through this configuration for the third time. This marks a time, a story, a learning that's been about intelligence, intuition, and maybe emotional wisdom. And Mercury coming in now direct again for a third and final pass through the trine. It's like the final scene in a trilogy that's been unfolding since early fall. We're still working with this eighth house related to transformation and wisdom, others, money. And then the fourth house is also involved, which relates to your home and your family of origin. And then Saturn is here in your 12th, bringing in themes around the time you spend alone, anything you do that's hidden that maybe not everyone knows about. Spirituality can show up here and healing themes as well. These are very sort of personal houses. This grand water trine may have been working with you emotionally since late October in sort of an internal process. Now you're sort of at a place where there's some real emotional fluency as Mercury direct moves through this configuration. Understanding others deeply is a big part of what this grand trine has been about. And also understanding yourself. Your emotional understanding is deep, rich, and clear now. You know how you feel and you understand why. Mercury in Scorpio signifies your ability to translate those feelings into words during this final pass, even if you only speak those words to yourself. What's been an emotional process might take shape a little bit more concretely now. This could also impact the way you see others, the way you understand others. Jupiter in Cancer signifies warmth and compassion. And hopefully you're applying that to yourself as well. But understanding where others are coming from is easy right now, too. Your emotional fluency is just sort of up during this time. It's amazing how when we apply that compassion, that understanding to ourselves, how it makes it easier to give that to others too. There's a real feeling of safety with this trine. Grand water trines bring a sense of emotional containment and safety. There may be sort of a pervasive feeling now that you're supported. Could mean that you've been processing something important, something private, something that makes you feel a little vulnerable because that support is in place. It's like you feel now, and you have been maybe since October, like you can sort of swim in those emotions rather than feeling like you're drowning in them because of that feeling of safety and comfort that the grand water trine is and has been providing. And that can lead to real healing and real progress. I also have to mention the profound intuition that can come in around this time, especially with it hitting such personal houses. You could be getting really good at using your intuition as guidance now, Aries. This configuration highlights our intuition. Intuition is really about emotions, and so is this grand water trine. So listen to your intuition, your emotional guidance system now. If something feels good, lean into it. And if someone or something doesn't feel good, lean away a bit if you can. It's not always that simple, but sometimes it is. And the more you listen to your intuition, the more it will speak to you. You've likely been practicing this for a few weeks now since these grand water trines opened up in late October. If so, your intuitive guidance could feel stronger than ever by now, thanks to all that practice. Not only do we have Mercury direct through Sagittarius at this time, we also have a new moon in Sagittarius on December 19th. Mercury is moving direct through Sagittarius at this time, and Venus is co-present in the house too. So we're here still speaking about ideas, beliefs, philosophy, and education. There could be some real themes unfolding around those life areas for you in December. And around this time, around the time of the new moon, you're planting seeds for what's next. The new moon offers an opportunity to set intentions and plant seeds in the Sagittarius sector of the chart. And after everything that's been working through here, you're likely feeling positive, hopeful, emotionally strong, and optimistic about your ideas, your beliefs, and your philosophy now. And that's a great energy to bring to this process of planting seeds. Dream big. And also, don't forget to be a little realistic about the time and energy you'll have to pursue the objectives you're imagining for yourself in the weeks and months ahead. There is sort of a genuine optimism that's available around a Sagittarius new moon, especially with Venus here, especially with Mercury direct. You're not trying to convince yourself that things are going to be okay in these life areas. You're actually sincerely optimistic about the potential and about the future. If there is some sort of education goal that you're pursuing right now or travel goal, you are probably feeling really excited and certain about it, Aries. Or it could be some new philosophy, some new way of thinking that you're tapping into, and you're feeling really excited about it and certain about it around this time. Do be careful though, because sometimes there can almost be a tendency towards underestimating problems with an energy like this. Sagittarius new moon energy is so hopeful and expansive that sometimes it can miss a thing or two. There might be certain potential pitfalls that you're overlooking right now, or you could be seeing someone or something with rose colored glasses. This could be a teacher or a mentor of some kind that is a part of the ninth house. It's great to be hopeful and see the best in people and have a good attitude. Just make sure you're attending to any problems, listening to your gut if there are concerns that come up when they arise, even if it means you didn't handle something perfectly. Sometimes with this energy, it can be hard to recognize our own shortcomings, but that's important if we're going to correct them and make things better. But for the most part, I definitely see this as a very hopeful, optimistic, positive new moon. And I love it coming in through the ninth for you, Aries. It's great to have sort of a renewed perspective on the world, to have some ideas coming in that really light us up, or maybe a new teacher or mentor. Do just be aware of those problems or issues as they come up. We can sort of tend to underestimate them with Sagittarius energy. So, not only is there a lot happening in this sector of the chart, with the sun and moon and Venus and Mercury all here, you might notice that this sun and moon are also making a lot of aspects. It's especially significant that the sun and the moon are in a square to Neptune in Pisces at the time of this new moon. And then right after that, new moon occurs on the 19th. Right after that, the sun moves into Capricorn, and that marks the solstice. So I want to talk about the sun, and really it's the moon too, squaring Neptune, and then the sun entering Capricorn for the solstice. This process is quick. We're really just talking about December 19th through 21st here. But in a way, this solstice energy is sort of baked in for the whole next season. And there is something really interesting about the way this particular solstice is kicking off with this new moon square to Neptune happening right before. Okay, so we're still here in your ninth house talking about ideas, beliefs, philosophy, and education. But I think it's also important to fold in that Neptune in Pisces, your hidden life, the time you spend alone, spirituality, healing. And we need to talk about Capricorn too, because we're also talking about what happens once the sun moves into Capricorn for the solstice. So your 10th house is about your work, your career, and your public image. Okay, so sort of putting this all together, Capricorn and Sagittarius up at the top of your chart, and all of this energy shifting with a new moon and then a solstice. I see optimism and ambition. All of this Sagittarius energy is so optimistic, especially with the Neptune square, encouraging some dreaminess and idealism. And then the sun lands in Capricorn for the solstice. And that sort of moves us from optimism to ambition. Capricorn is steady and calm and hardworking. It's really the anchor, the energy that can help sustain a dream through the long winter ahead. This could be a time where you're working through a process of sort of choosing goals and dreams, honing in on them. There's something about this process that suggests a whole lot of dreams and ambitions coming in all at once around the time of this new moon and Neptune square, and then things being kind of parsed out, trimmed back, pared down as we move into Capricorn season. It's like you're asking, okay, now that I've come back to my senses, what can I really do with all of those dreams? Which ones should I set aside and which should I actually work on pursuing? What's realistic and what's going a little too far? You could be someone who tends to be quite dreamy, Aries, when it comes to your ideas and beliefs, quite optimistic and expansive. And then when it comes to your work, you're probably quite grounded and earthy and serious. So these are very different energies to be bridging. There's just a renewal vibe to this time as well that must be mentioned. This is the winter solstice. We're at a moment of a turning of the light, a returning of the light. From the darkest night of the year, we pull up and out and back into a season where the sun's light is growing slowly and steadily, day after day. So, this solstice, especially in conjunction with such an interesting new moon, is a great time to reflect on the past season and the dreams you want to carry forward. And it's a great time to rest and renew your spirit for all the bright future that lies ahead, Aries. The next lunation that I want to talk with you about, Aries, is the Cancer full moon that occurs on January 3rd. So the full moon is down here in your fourth house, which relates to home and family of origin. Sometimes I see family members, current family members show up here, but most often it's your family of origin, like your parents, and other themes around sort of ancestors and your line, different people that you come from can show up here too. But when we talk about home, it's your physical home where you're living now. The fourth house is sort of all about your foundation. So when we look at this chart, we see the moon here, great. And it's kind of hard to ignore everything that's going on up in the 10th house. And we are going to go ahead and label that sector of the chart and include it in this lunation for a few reasons. So, all this busyness, including the sun, is happening in Capricorn in your 10th house. The 10th house is about work, career, and public image. First, we have that Mercury retrograde here, finally done with the Sagittarius, Scorpio, Mercury time. Then the MC, don't worry about that. That just relates to the chart, the wheel here. Venus, the Sun, Mars, and then you see right over the line there, actually in Aquarius, Pluto. So basically, all of the personal planets, Mercury, Venus, and Mars, and the Sun as well, are in Capricorn at this time, at the time of this lunation. And of course, a full moon receives its light from the Sun. So when we talk about a full moon, it is always including that other side of the chart as well. The fact that this axis is activated for you, Aries, could suggest some tension between sort of home and work. Sometimes I notice that this axis can be activated for people who work from home. I've seen that more and more lately. But like personal life, professional life type tension. Sometimes when it's activated, it can feel like there sort of isn't enough to give on either side. Like there's such a stretching of the energy that you sort of feel like you're coming up short, both personally and professionally, if that makes sense. There's just not enough energy to go around for both. But this Cancer full moon is a wonderful lunation. It's a lot of emotion here, though. There's some big feelings. Cancer is the first water sign. All water sign energy is about emotion, intuition, compassion. But since Cancer is the first water sign, it tends to bring sort of a youthful vibe to emotions. Emotional or protective energy can sort of be a little over the top at this time, but feelings aren't as major as they might feel. In fact, you might notice how quickly moods change around this time. And this could be you, or it could be people related to these parts of your chart that are showing up this way, Aries. There's such a nurturing energy here. There could be sort of themes around mothering or moms, motherhood, themes around women, moms, or mothering could come to the surface of your experience around this time, Aries. You might be thinking about how you're mothering others. Did they ask for that experience? Is it too much for you? You might be thinking about how you can nurture others in a way that works best for everyone involved. You might be thinking about ways to show how much you care in some kind of way. You might also feel like you're in need of some advice, some nurturing, some parenting, maybe even some wise and loving counsel around this time yourself. And I feel like this could be coming up in terms of your family of origin or maybe just your home. You could be the one looking for a little of that nurturing around this time, Aries. There's also a culmination energy that we're working with here because we're talking about a full moon. Full moons are times of manifesting rewards, and it's a culmination point. What did you set in motion in this part of the chart 6 months ago? How have things sort of come together as a result of those intentions and your efforts since then? And how should you adjust your plans now in terms of those life areas for the 6 months ahead? There's something about how this full moon is occurring just a couple of days into the new year. I feel like it almost sort of extends that opportunity for setting intentions. The turning of the calendar year doesn't mean anything astrologically, right? The solstice does, but the turning of the calendar year really doesn't. But I think it means so much in terms of a secular life and just the world that we're living in that it is a good reset point. And I don't know, this full moon in Cancer just a couple of days later, it sort of extends that reset, culmination of one year, beginning of the next energy in some way for a few more days. It's a great time to be doing a little of that processing, of that work about what you want for the future in really both sectors of the chart here, work and career and home and family of origin, Aries. Okay, Aries, let's actually stay with the same axis and just advance the chart a few days. Let's look at this Jupiter opposition to Venus, the Sun, and Mars. You can see that Venus, the Sun, and Mars are basically all at the same point in the sky, directly opposing Jupiter around this time. It's exact on the 9th and the 10th, but really this configuration is active from January 5th through 13th. So again, I'm just sort of noticing this tension between home and work. It could be sort of sides of yourself. It could be not having enough energy for all of it. There could be sort of a more thematic pull in some sort of a way, like a heart versus hustle theme. Oppositions sometimes signal two people or two parts of yourself sort of squaring off against each other, facing off against each other, I should say. In this case, we have Jupiter in Cancer, which craves comfort and closeness, a feeling of emotional security and belonging, facing off against these Capricorn planets, which are calling for responsibility, structure, professional progress. You could see this playing out between yourself and someone else, with each of you playing one of these roles. Or it could be that this represents parts of yourself, two inner voices that sort of conflict and encourage you in different directions around this time. How can you do both? How can you make everyone happy? There's a lot of positive energy here. We have Venus and Jupiter involved, and Jupiter's exalted. Definitely think that finding balance is more than a little possible now, Aries, for you. As much as you might feel pulled in more than one direction at this time, what this transit is really calling for is finding balance. You don't have to choose between those two different directions, those two different goals. You kind of just have to keep going. And maybe recognizing when you've tilted too far one way or the other can sort of help you stay on the path. You want to honor both sides of the equation here. Making adjustments during this time as needed can help you find the balance. And I think that that's really all you need to do to just keep everything going. There's also a generosity here and a stability, and I like the combination. Like generosity meets stability with an aspect like this, Aries. This kind of transit, especially involving Venus and especially involving Jupiter and Cancer, can exaggerate our desire to give, to spend, to help. But All this Capricorn energy is sort of reminding us that showing up in ways that are sustainable and reliable is really important too. So you might find yourself giving at this time without giving too much. You might also notice the way in which others are extra prone to sort of make and keep meaningful promises. There's just sort of a general vibe of stability right now, like stability is being created during this time. As much as there's some tension here, this is a nice aspect. There's a lot of positive potential here, Aries. Sometimes that can come from a more tense experience. You might sort of move through moments that are uncomfortable, but then eventually land at this place of stability, of finding that right balance, even if it doesn't always feel like it. I think that's what I want to say. It's like, even if it doesn't feel like you're doing a good job here, you probably are. You just have to keep going, maybe it is a lot. Maybe you are extra busy. I'm not sure. I would like to hear about that in the comments too. I think I already asked you to weigh in on the Mercury retrograde, but now I'm curious about this aspect as well. How are you sort of noticing and balancing the tension between these two different parts of your life around this time? And how is that sort of ultimately creating some stability? Now let's take a look at this chart for January 18th and this Capricorn new moon that occurs at that time. This is a dynamic new moon with the sun and moon trining Uranus in Taurus and in a sextile with Saturn and Neptune in Pisces. And some of these transits are really quite tight. Saturn and Uranus are in a very close sextile themselves. Okay, so we're looking at your 10th house, work, career, and public image. And we are bringing in energies from these two other parts of the chart. We're looking at Saturn and Neptune here together in Pisces in your 12th. Hidden time, alone time, spirituality, healing themes. And then Uranus is in your second house, which relates to your earnings and values. It's sort of another professional house. It ties in very nicely with the 10th house themes here. This is an amazing time for building, for planning the future. Capricorn new moons always help keep our focus on goals and ambitions for the future. And Capricorn new moon energy helps us to ground those plans through our efforts and our intentionality. With Uranus involved in the mix here, there's a chance to bring an innovative spark to this process in some way. What's being built in the part of your chart ruled by the 10th house, Capricorn, your work and career? What are you building here that's genuinely new and exciting and innovative? Understanding the opportunity and the new goals now, really getting clear about that, can sort of help you lay the groundwork and get started. There's also just theme around inspiration coming in here. There's something about this new moon that's incredibly inspired, Aries. You might feel like your enthusiasm for your work and career is sort of reignited around this time, or you could just feel really inspired in some way in general. I mean, there's something practical about this energy. Sure, we're talking about Capricorn here, but there's something progressive about it too. Noticing what's lighting you up around this time and sort of letting that inspiration carry you, not just mentally, but emotionally as well. Leaning into a process like that could lead you somewhere really great, Aries. You might also find that you're sort of redefining success around this time. This new moon is so dynamic. There are so many planetary influences to consider at this time. All this Pisces energy is sort of loosening up old lines and boundaries. And Uranus is sort of loosening up the ties of old goals, old ambitions, outdated ambitions as well. So it feels like it's time to define achievement and success on your own terms, not by how society or, someone else taught you to define them. This new moon can help you find a more personal path, a more personal definition. Aquarius season is one for the books, Aries. So stay tuned on the podcast that I host on YouTube. I'll attach a link here. If you enjoyed this video, you would probably enjoy that too. We'll be discussing all of this astrology and also that Aquarius season coming up next there. And it will be a part of my February astrology reports as well. Thank you for watching, Aries. I hope you have a wonderful December and January.